Well, hello and welcome everybody. My name is Matt and this is Travel Without a Cause. This is my very first vlog for this channel. And what this channel is essentially a travel vlog, covering all things, if it's historical significance, nostalgia, and all the above. I'm based out of the South here in South Louisiana. I will be covering things locally, not so locally, nationally, and hopefully one day abroad in other countries as time and money present themselves. So I hope you like it. This is my first one, like I said, so I'm getting my sea legs here. I thought my first vlog, and I'm going to go ahead and just kick this thing right off. I don't want to talk too much about myself off the beginning. You'll get to know me through the vlogs if you choose to follow it. But like I said, I basically wanted to start locally here in Lafayette, Louisiana, where I'm from. And I thought I'd start my first vlog on something that's from my childhood, something that's very nostalgic to me, sentimental to me, and a lot of people from this area, from this town, and I say this town, from this city. But and what that place is, I'll show you in a second. But before I do all that, you know how these YouTube channels go. Like, please like it, subscribe it if you like it, share it. I'd like it to grow. I want to keep doing this for a long time. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, and I'm definitely excited to get it started. And I'm hoping to do a few of these a week if if time permits. I'd like to watch it grow and have it grow and all that. So like I said, without further ado, I'll introduce you to the guest of honor for the very first vlog I'm making for this channel. I'm just winging this, so I hope I'm sort of good at winging things. We'll find out. I'll go ahead and turn my camera around here, and here we go. And there she is. Well, where she used to be. The location that I'm looking at here, or the place of significance in this vlog here, is a movie theater that at the time was a very state-of-the-art structure, and also was a pretty impressive engineering feat when it came to sound engineering for movie theaters. Almost something that, well, stuff that they didn't have at the time, and it was definitely something that wasn't used much, if at all, in any other theaters around the country. And the name of this theater, or what the theater that used to stand here, was called Center Cinema, which was pretty much named after the oil center, or named because of the oil center which it stands in. And the oil center, which is a story for another time, but the oil center has to do with the fact that here in Lafayette, Louisiana, we are basically what's called the hub city. That's what the nickname is for it, because it sits pretty much smack dab in the middle of New Orleans and Houston. And as you can imagine, those are two mecca cities, definitely oil field related. And of course, Louisiana is the second most, or the second largest oil producer, or oil field state, or basically a state that produces oil and refines it and all that in the country. So Lafayette, Louisiana always fell right back smack in the middle of that. So the oil center is a place where there's a lot of oil business back in the day, a lot of companies and all that, and it all focused around here and in this part of town. So I'm not going to get too much into that. That's not really the focus of today's vlog. But so anyway, the Center Cinema was built here, and right in the middle of South Lafayette, and it was a pretty big deal. I'd say for many years, this was the theater to see movies at. And of course, back then, movie theaters were just one big room. They weren't 15, 16 different movies playing at one time. So back then, it was more of a big deal, or ordeal, to go and see whatever movie was being played at that theater at the time. So, dating back to October 20th, 1966, the doors opened to Center Cinema with the movie Dr. Zhivago. And that movie starred, I think, Omar Sharif and Julie Christie. Rod Steiger was in it, and Geraldine Chaplin, who is Charlie Chaplin's daughter, actually. It won like 6 Academy Awards for costume design, screenplay, score, I think set decoration, creative direction or something like that. It was it won 6 of them. It was a pretty big deal, and it was shot in I don't know if it's Technicolor or not, but it was shot by MGM, and a lot of the awards, like 4 of those Academy Awards, were given because of the fact that it was due to the color aspect, like costume design and set decoration. It was all engineered. I say engineered. It was designed to capture the color aspect, because not all movies were made in color back then. You know, most American, I'll say most families around the world did not have color televisions back then. You know, that was a thing maybe in the 70s where they started getting color televisions on the regular in households. But so when a movie theater could show a movie that provided color or highlighted the fact that, you know, the movie could be seen in color, I guess there were awards back then, Academy Awards, that were focused on that were focused on the fact that they could capture and showcase, you know, the things that are very colorful in movies. So anyway, it was one big room here at the theater, and that was the only, you know, that was how it was for years. I think for 5 years. And the sound, the engineering feat when it came to sound, the cool thing about that is that, by the way, guys, I'm sorry if it's kind of dim out here. It's late in the day. It's been so ridiculously hot down here in South Louisiana lately. It's like walking through a steam room all day long. Even when you're inside the air conditioning, you can still feel it. I think it's like usually like between 80 and 90% humidity. And the temperature could be 89, 90, which doesn't sound too hot. But when you add all that humidity to it, it's just ridiculous. So I didn't want to come out here in the middle of the day and, you know, sweat too much. So anyway, so back to the story. For about 5 years, that's what it was. Oh, no, excuse me. Going back to the sound engineering. The cool thing about this place was that, you know, movie theaters, when you walk in, there's a big foyer area, whatever you call it, the entrance area where you get your popcorn, and they have the ticket takers and all that, and you have that big room in there. And then basically back then, since it was one room theater, there was the front room, and then there's a theater. So you walk through the doors or whatever it was to go to, you know, to see the movie, to go sit in your seat and all that. So with this one, they engineer it to where you couldn't hear any of the movie. The sound, the vibrations, the bass, or whatever it was that you would typically hear from a loud movie theater back in the 1960s. They engineered the 2 entrances, you know, one on the left and one on the right, to get on each side of the theater, you know, for seating. And they kind of had this windy sort of entrance that sort of snaked around, you know, to get in from the main area of the theater, or the entrance part where you get your popcorn and such, into the theater. So when you're standing there getting popcorns and drinks and all that, you could not hear the movie inside. And it was just an engineer. Like I said, it sounds silly now because technology's taken off tremendously. But back in 1965, 66, that was like not really a consideration. And you got to think how old, you know, how long theaters have been in America, you know, dating back to, you know, 100, 200 years ago. So that was a big deal in the 60s to do that. So, yeah, so it was a one-room theater for about 5 years. And I believe on September 16th, 1971, and a second room was added. Basically, they just doubled the theater size. Like the structure, they just added onto it and doubled in size. And added a second room. And then they aptly kind of renamed the theater Center Cinema 2. And then you could choose between 2 movies there, you know. And a thing back then that was popular at that time is when you hear people say, you know, we'll catch a double feature. I guess because movies like theaters like that would capture or hold 2 movies at a time, you know, you can go see one and then go see the other one right after, which was a genius marketing idea. And so they did that for, I think, 8 years. And many, you know, all the top movies were seen here. Like I said, it was a top of the line theater. So they got all the big hits. They got, you know, Jaws, The Godfather, Carrie, Marathon Man, all these big movies, Fahrenheit 451, and all that, you know, just to come to mind. And I'm showing a few flyers here. As you can see, these are flyers here locally advertising the movies and what movies are being shown and showcased at the theater. So I think on November 21st, 1979, They didn't add to the building structurally, but they added, or they renovated the inside so that they could show 3 different movies at a time. So then it became a 3-room theater. And so, as you can imagine, it's like, you know, it's them scaling up, and they're showing more and more. And like I said, at that time, not all theaters, this is before a time where, like you said, you have grand theaters like now, where there's 15, 16 or more movies being shown at any given time. This is the time where still, to have 3 movies at one theater, that was a step up. That was kind of prestige, you know, that was almost unheard of. And so it stayed like that for, okay, so 1979, the 3rd room was built. In 1985, and I'm not sure if it was due to new management or new ownership, or if they just simply changed the name for marketing purposes, but they changed the name to Dollar Cinema. And as you know, makes sense. It was, or obviously, I should say, it cost $1 to watch a movie. And I remember that. Most of my childhood, you know, I was born in 1980, so most of my childhood was spent coming here when it was called the Dollar Cinema. And saw lots of cool movies here. Karate Kid, Karate Kid 2, Beetlejuice, Wayne's World, Jurassic Park, to name a few. I mean, it was still playing all the big movies back then. And in 1986, the year after they changed the name, they added or renovated the inside again so that they could showcase 4 movies at one time. And at one time, they aptly called the theater Movies 4. And I'd have to do my research. I don't remember what time frame that was, but I think it was early on, before they changed it to the $1.50 cinema, which was around I want to say the early 90s. Early 90s, I want to say they started doing that. And probably due to inflation, they increased the prices to $1.50. But anyway, so it stayed like that. You know, it stayed that way. 4 theaters, 4 rooms in the theater, and with the name $1.50 Cinema until 1998, where they closed their doors for good. And so after, let's say, 33 years, they shut their doors. And I want to say around, I want to say that like late 2000s, early 2010s. I could be off a few years. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but they finally demolished it. And it was just a piece of property, and it was empty until about a couple of months ago. And they started building this parking garage, which in an ominous way, in a kind of a nostalgic way, it's kind of a reminder of the Dollar Cinema, because it's the same color, and obviously it's just a big rectangularly shaped building. So it's almost in a way, kind of resembles the Dollar Cinema or Center Cinema, if you look at it that way. If you close your eyes, if you squint your eyes close enough. If you squint your eyes enough and look a certain way, it might look like the Dollar Cinema. I'm getting my words tied up here, but yeah. So that it's a place of definitely significant value here. Significant value as for the engineering and such and all that. And it stood for so many years. And from what I remember, just like any place, I was 20-something, 30-something years old. I mean, it started showing its age, and I'm sure that's why it just finally got torn down and all that, and such. So that's the end of it. And so all we have now is the memories. And I kind of wish they would have kept it up and kept it going. It would have been fun to be able to, even if they change it into something else, like a furniture store or something, just to have it there and just be able to go inside of it sometimes. Even though it wouldn't look anything like a theater anymore, but just to think like, man, it's still here. This is a structure and what it meant to so many people. And so yeah, so that's really about it. I wanted to do this as my first vlog, really, because, well, for one, it's local, and it's definitely a significant, a place of significance for my childhood, especially. So many memories here, so many movies here, so many big time movies here. That I'll never forget. And I'll never forget the way the inside of the place looked, the way the sticky floors, the way it smelled, the way it looked, all that stuff. So we're all gonna miss it. And every time I drive by, I always think about it. I always think like, well, that's where the Dollar Cinema was. And kind of, it makes you think about just, you know, Americana and the old days and how theaters were. And now, of course, you have the big marquee theaters like on Main Street in big cities like New York and all that. But then you had ones like this that started popping up in the, I guess, around the 60s, that were standalone buildings like they had, and that they were able to add on to it and kind of scale up and show more and more movies at one time inside of it. And I think a lot of it had to do with the big United Artists theaters and Carmike theaters and all that started showing the 10, 12, 14, 15 movies at a time. Those really took over because they had the budget, they had the bids, they got the movies faster than places like the Dollar Cinema. The Dollar Cinema was kind of just, you know, aged, and it was showing its age, and it was just not, it wasn't able to keep up with those other ones, and which is sad. You know, it's kind of a piece of a point in time, or I say a piece of nostalgia that just is forced to kind of take the back seat to the new things. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, this is more of a local thing for me. A lot of people that are watching this, well, I assume a lot of people that might end up watching this might not know the place or know what I'm even talking about here, of course. But you know, I will be covering places of more significance and more famous places. You know, especially when I go to places like New Orleans and all that, and other bigger cities like that. But sometimes I'll just vlog local things like this, and sometimes people might say, "Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. Never heard of that, but it's cool." And so with that, I think I'll sign off, and I'll just thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for stopping by and hanging out with me while I told you a little story about a little well-known theater at the time that meant so much to so many people here in what we call the Acadiana region. And so yeah, so I'll go ahead and hang up here, and I'll say thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you at the next one. Signing off from the Dollar Cinema here in Lafayette, Louisiana. Goodbye.